Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? That's 4 titles in a row for the Hoops as we clinch the title at Tannadice yet again. And a title, climax that had been building the lead up has potentially maybe even been tedious, where we see the Hoops break through 100 goals scored in a 5-0 victory off the back of a 6-0 victory. This week has been anything but tedious. It has been absolute party time. And vintage Celtic, really from start to finish in this game that we've seen at the weekend, it was, the best of what we've seen this season so far. It was a really good showcase, not just from individual players who stood up and had good performances, but also from the entire squad, the setup, the tactics, and the manager himself, of course. And let's not forget, of course, the Celtic faithful who travelled in their numbers despite the ticket pricing and certainly let their voices be known and felt in this game in more ways than one. It was a fantastic game, a fantastic occasion, and in the video today we're going to break down what we've seen, the good, the bad, the indifferent, the ugly, whatever there is in the video today, as well as going through player ratings, main takeaways, and all the usual stuff as well. If you caught the preview stream that we did on Friday, I think it was about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we went live for that. We got a lot of the projections, the previews for the game pretty spot on, so I look forward to doing the breakdown with you guys at any point in the video. If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We are pushing for 18,888 subscribers, and we cannot do that without your support. So if you do enjoy the content here, hit subscribe for more and get into the comment section on this one and let me know your big takeaways from the game. As usual, the comment section is always on fire, and I always have a lot of fun catching up with the comments after the videos go out. So yeah, let your thoughts and feelings be known down there. Hit the like button if you enjoy it and all that good stuff. And let's just get stuck straight into it. I think the best place to start with this is the starting 11, because if you caught the preview show, you'll remember when it came to who to select in attack, it was like a real crossroads. It was a real either or situation. You either stick with Idah and Forrest, who had been showing a bit of an improvement in form. The team had looked a little bit better in the last couple of games with their influence in the final third. Or do you go back to what is recognised as being the best front three? And for me, it really felt like you're either going to go and get the push the envelope, get the job done, bring home the title with Maeda through the middle essentially, and then Jota and Kuhn out wide, or you're going for that kind of loyalty to Idah, respect for Forrest kind of play, and try and give both of them their start and their opportunity. And the manager went with getting the job done, pushing the envelope. We start with Dazien Maeda through the middle, of course, with Jota on the left and Kuhn on the right. Now, with the Dundee United team, we got it pretty spot on. I would have been, as I said there, with the projected lineup that we had, it felt a bit too symmetrical. Normally Dundee United, what we've seen, they like to lean on one side, and that's exactly what we got. They did start Middleton on the left with Ferry, and we didn't really see too much threat from them going forward like we imagined in the preview, but that dynamic was certainly there. We also had Payton and Sibbald coming in to start this one in a midfield that was a lot tighter, and although there was periods in the opening stages of the game, and as a contest this was really, and I know the commentary team tried to give it a bit of vigour or give it a bit more meaning as a two-way competition at 1 and 2-0, but really for me, as soon as it went to 1-0, we basically put both hands on the wheel. But in that opening stage of the game, Dundee United did a really good job of stretching the accordion out, as it were. So when we did get into the final third and we were attacking, they were retreating in numbers, they were getting bodies back into the box, they were making everything really, really difficult. But we always do like to play out from the back, and every opportunity we were taking to try and play out of our own half, when we've got these players dropping in deeper, Dundee United were really happy to meet us up here, and I guess it is a press, right? But I wouldn't say they were pressing us necessarily, but they were more just occupying the same area of the pitch our players were, and we're following them back into the Celtic half. And that just made it made it harder to knit the passes together and to get into their half. But what that meant is in the opening, I'm going to say 20-25 minutes or so, the main route to goal, the main kind of attacking threat we had was dangerous balls into the channel. Engels played 1 or 2 from deep that were really good and almost came off for something similar with Hatate and McGregor. And this gave a really good opportunity for the midfield to kind of showcase, both sides of the game, because every midfielder, I think we would all agree, that not one of them is overly defensive, not one of them is super overload with being an attacking minded based or focused player. So with them all kind of playing deeper, we had good exposure for the defence in the midfield here to play in tight spaces, to make quick decisions, 1-2 touch passing and moving into space, and then if the opening does come or they see a pass they can make, either a diagonal across the pitch or one straight down the line, they were taking that. And it's very, very rare that we've got so much space to play into. You know, it was really a breath of fresh air to see that, you know, we had somewhere to run into. It gave Kuhn some space to play into. And so often guys like Dazien and Jota, we see them punish this space, and there was a few chances where we were kind of huffing and puffing and not really getting anywhere. But because Dundee United were really happy to meet us all over the pitch, especially at 0-0, like the game was on the tight side. They had some speculative kind of shots from the edge of the box, that sort of thing, whenever they would either, you know, we've seen Middleton kind of cheat once or twice as well. And this is what I'm always talking about with Celtic, or with really just football in general. You need moments where someone is just going to break the rules and do something different, and there was the odd occasion where we would see Middleton try and get into that pocket that we highlighted in the preview show that they would probably try and exploit in between Scales and Taylor if Taylor went really high up in support, which really in the opening stages of the game Taylor was very much on his toes. You know, he was very much all over the place, and you could see between Middleton, Payton, there's a few of these guys looking to try and sniff out those little bits of space and try and turn us round. And yeah, we had some defending to do. Dundee United were present in the match, certainly. But it felt like every time the ball turned over, there was going to be a couple of passes made, and then someone was going to find a channel ball, and we are going to try and play somebody through. And with the form our guys have been in, and with the occasion, you know, the kind of the festival vibe that was in the stadium, it did feel as a matter of time. Now, the deadlock didn't get broken until we had the, you know, the part one of the protest, the tangerine moment, and the boys really seemed to relish it. You know, so much of the play that we were doing in this kind of like the first third of the game essentially was a lot of hard yards to be won, but there was some slick football, some really good interchange play, and you know, like Taylor's chance where he does a little flick up from the corner thing for Dazien. We had the attempted overhead kick. You know, there was lots of like almost kind of good moments. Hatate's ball as well that he plays in over the top for Kuhn, which just gets narrowly, it doesn't come off. And after the Tangerine Gate situation, it felt like the majority of our play was more so coming down the right here. I've never really seen Taylor being too influential or being present on the ball, same with Jota. And that kind of spell of the first half, it was all Johnson, Engels and Kuhn. You know, what spaces were they driving into? Who was making the overlapping runs? And we went through this little series of getting a couple of corners, which Engels was obviously whipping in, because that's one of his attributes that he brings to the squad. Sadly, it goes down as an OG, despite how much Jota was trying to claim it. But we opened the deadlock from a set piece, and you know, again, we spoke about in the preview, Brendan definitely would have wanted like a picture perfect performance, you know, a game of two halves and ticking all the boxes, and one of those boxes has to be a set piece goal. Now, it's an OG, so you know, how much credit, how much of a win is it? I don't know, but it breaks the deadlock, and like I said earlier, from that moment on, it felt like as soon as we went 1-0 up, we were going to be winning this game, and we were going to be winning it comfortably. Because as much as even at that point the game was still tight and Dundee United were still trying to come after us, actually still got a few chances and a few shots, that sort of thing. One thing I noticed at this stage was the accordion stretching out just stretched that little bit further. Either Celtic were, you know, just spreading the team out and just kind of baiting Dundee United into it a little bit perhaps, or Dundee United now know they're 1-0 down and they need to get the next goal, so they take a bit more space, they take up a bit more of an advanced position, as it were. But what that ends up doing for us is it then just means that, like, although there's not like too many like actual open spaces around the pitch, all of our players are so comfortable at dealing with the amount of space that they're given. If they're kind of marked 1v1, but there's all this space in between players and different obvious channels that are opening up because of where the markers are, etc. Our guys are just so good at playing that way. You know, they're just a much higher level of football player, and this is the basic element of like building out play, building a team, is playing in tight spaces in a box type situation, man for man marking, and being better than your opposite number, winning your duels, winning your battles, and keeping it clever, keeping it clean. Now, with one of the main features of this kind of period of the game being everything coming down the right hand side, it was actually Jota being on this kind of end of the pitch, just the way play had progressed, etc. And he takes a bang off of, I think it might have been the boy Docherty or Campbell, it was one of them. And Jota, you know, it looked to me at first to be like a sprain, you know, like almost like if he sprained your ankle, but it was like his knee. Obviously we've seen him after the game heavily casted up, and we'll see the result of any scans that he's going to get, but I'm hoping it's just something like a twisted knee or something like that. Again, I've got no like insight into that or any credentials to kind of offer that, but just from what I've seen, just the action his knee took and everything, I could imagine it being something not minor, you know, but certainly nowhere near on the major scale at all. So Jota has to come off for Adam Idah, and really this was a big changing moment in the match for me, because Adeboyega is like a big centre back, but he's not like one of these hard-nosed centre-backs that we can come up against sometimes in the league. And Savelj, we previewed, he's a midfielder generally who fills in to a back four to make it a back five, or into a centre-back three, full-backs move on, whatever you want to think of it as. And Idah really just had the number of these two guys. None of them were going to stop him today in any case, whether it be shoulder to shoulder running down a channel, whether it be for something in the air or anything like it. Idah was a mismatch on these two guys, and it really showed really, really quickly. I think he was licking his lips coming into this game as well, because he doesn't get to play with, you know, this type of situation too often early on in the match. Everyone's fully charged up, and he's got Kuhn and Dazien either side of him. No Yang, no James Forrest. With all due respect to them, this is just like the A-team, isn't it, in terms of service and delivery. And one of the things that's probably like the unsung hero of this season, of the latter half of this season anyway, is Dazien Maeda's left foot, because so often, especially in the post-Jota era, I know he's back now, but you know what I'm saying, his left foot, his delivery as a winger has been one of his biggest negative points, has been one of his biggest like points of like, oh, Dazien, come on, man. But this season, the last couple of months, and it was so well highlighted in this game, his left foot delivery, it's not like amazing, he's not turned into like Pirlo on the wing or anything like that, but he's absolutely just mastered getting away a successful delivery to a player in the right space, in the right position. And it's no surprise that the next goal, that's exactly what happens. He gets the space down here, and these guys are happy to show Dazien the line, because they've got this stigma in their head of his whole Celtic career where you give him this space down here, and what's he really going to do? He's probably going to shank across, and it's going to zip off his toe, off his curly toe, and head up in the crowd or something like that. But no, not Dazien these days. He gets into this space, it zips the ball across the face of goal, and Kuhn is there to smash it in. And a very Kuhn goal, you know, like very similar to the goal in a roundabout way that Jota scored, that winger back post, one touch tap in finish from close range. And this was a big one for Kuhn. His celebration, right, guys in the comment sections, feel free to help me out with this, right, but he starts giving it this. First thing I'm thinking is all the naysayers potentially, or anyone who thinks his head has been turned, maybe journalists, something like that, I don't know. But the way the camera shot went, it looked like he kind of then directed it to someone on the pitch, but the shot cut away and started to show you a replay of the goal. So anyone who was at the game, always interested to hear from folks that attended the match, of course, on the channel, because if I've not attended it, I'm doing this from the TV, I'm doing this from the armchair. Always love to hear from the fans in attendance, of course, but particularly for that, if you've seen who it was aimed at, directed at, get that into the comment section. And yeah, that goal was way overdue for Kuhn, and it felt like if the first goal didn't put two hands on the wheel, the second goal definitely did. And from that point onwards, the chances started to rain. Now, I think probably the big chance missed of the match was Tannadice's cross ball from around this area here into Idah, and there was no excuse for him to miss that, sadly. He did, but that really should have been a goal. And it felt like Hatate was just really pulling the strings in this period of the game as well, whether it be from these kind of deeper areas with those chip balls, or when he did get into the final right and around in the box. And Idah was feeling like a very capable goal for it. And when the third chance comes, the third goal ends up coming, again, it's off the left foot of Dazien, getting into this channel here with Adam Idah dragging the defender forward to try and get something on it at the front post. Did he leave it for Kuhn? I'm 50-50. I think he maybe did. The commentary team weren't as convinced, and Kuhn has got a tap in, a very easy goal, and he's got to score that, and of course he does. And Dundee United at this point, as I say, they're just falling victim really to just going 1v1 against us all over the pitch, and really none of their guys really have the ability to get away with doing that. Again, Celtic, we struggle when there's just too many bodies in there, too much traffic to actually get the ball through, and when key players are just completely, not just crowded, because there's obviously somebody stuck to them in this situation, but crowded and that extra kind of pressure. Like I say, I do struggle to say that Dundee United pressed us. I don't think it really felt that intense in that regard. It was just more managing space and covering bodies, and it just gave us a route to goal that we don't normally get domestically, because the amount of space that Dazien's getting into for the second goal and the third goal here, and the amount of chances that we've seen coming into these areas, and this is all in the first half, far exceeds what we've seen in other matches this season. And that's because Dundee United left us 1v1 and gave us space, because when they're stretching this accordion up, they do move their defensive back line, they move their offside line to be a bit higher, because we are going to try and play with pace. And again, we just don't ever, when do we ever go away from home and have this kind of space to play into? Never. So it was eaten into our hands. And by the time Kuhn gets the second goal, 3-0, I think that's when everyone is kind of on board now with, like, yeah, it's party time, you know, all the chants start happening, you know, Championes and everything's going off. And yeah, very, very good first half. And like I mentioned in the preview, coming into this game, Brendan Rodgers wants that picture-perfect performance. He wants a game of two halves. And right on the whistle to start the second half, it's that penetrating run from Alistair Johnston that we've seen so often this season. He gets into that position down and around the byline, cuts one into the box, and Idah this time scores a header. He does it. He makes it 4-0. He wheels away in celebration with AJ, and in front of the away end that we had there, it just, you know, you could feel the celebrations were really kicking on here. And at 4-0, my prediction for this game was 6-0. I was feeling pretty good that it was going to come in for the second week in a row. And really at this point in the game, it is feeling like a vintage, a pretty perfect game. Everyone is playing absolutely exceptionally. Now I must say, I felt like in the early stages of the first half, Engels was doing really good in this kind of defensive role with those kind of long-ranging balls. It's definitely one of his main attributes. But the more the game went on, it just felt like, I don't know if I would ever say he was in the wrong position, but it was just never in a good position for someone like Hatate to open up and play with, or even McGregor, you know, because when the other midfielders are getting a bit higher, like McGregor gets the assist for Adam Idah for his second goal, of course, and the way that we've seen Hatate play balls in for Kuhn and for laterally Dazien as he's been on the left-hand side here, very few times do we see them firing the ball into Engels, and the higher Engels goes in this game, in terms that this is kind of happening as the minutes tick on, the less of an influence, the less of an impact he's having in this game. And it started to become apparent to me, like, Engels is kind of the only one here not getting on the ball, not really influencing the match. And I was really desperate for him to have a pretty big performance in this game, just because, like, you know, I think he's a great guy. I think he's had a great season for us, and it would be nice to have a bit of the performance kind of that Kuhn ended up having ultimately, and Rio Hatate has been having recently, and was certainly in search for in this match here. But Hatate, you can feel the desire, you can feel the burning passion of, you know, him wanting to win and do well and be the guy that does it. And he's defending, he's attacking, he's kind of going everywhere and doing everything. And Engels, like, it felt like, again, the main criticism we have on this channel, sometimes he just not that he hides, but he's just not in a good space, and he's just not effective, and then it's easy to not use him. And then it's kind of like you're missing a guy in the build-up, you're missing a guy in the play, and sure, they're maybe taking care of a marker, covering some space and stuff like that, but they're not actually on the ball finishing or laying someone else on or being involved in that play. Because when we're seeing these balls coming down channels for Kuhn and for AJ, for Dazien, it's every time it's coming from Hatate and McGregor. Yeah, Taylor was involved in a bit of it as well. Scales and Vickers actually played for like front foot defence. It was probably their best match for that. We've seen Vickers, he got an absolute nosebleed, didn't he? But he got right up into the opposition half, and we've seen Scales maybe doing a little bit of that like we're used to seeing as well. But yeah, I got a little bit nervous for Engels and his contribution, and the fact that he might not have a good one in this one. But like I say, McGregor with a lovely through ball, and Adam Idah makes it 4. Pardon me, makes it 5. And sadly, that is all the scoring done for the day. And before we get to player ratings, we'll just kind of go through the tail of the tape for the rest of the match as we've seen it. In terms of actual open play, passages of play, I don't think there's too much to write home about. Just before the 60-minute mark, they bring on Trapanowski for Payton, and they bring on Bubinski for Docherty. I don't know enough about this guy to really comment on his output in this one, but he did feel that, you know, like they were still trying to push for it. I think Jim Goodwin definitely did not want Celtic coming out of this one with a clean sheet and having it all their own way, so fair play to him. And it did just increase the amount of space, like, it kept the amount of space we had at least consistent, if it didn't give us even more space in the match as the second half went on. But we get to the 63rd minute, and we're taking off Engels, very unsurprisingly, for Bernardo. Now, Bernardo, you guys in the comment sections have been harping for him to come back, and I think he's been way overdue a return as well, obviously after his recent injury. Solid contributor this season, and missed out on some big matches sadly, down to injury. He comes on, as does wee Jimmy, and I don't think Kuhn was buzzing to miss out on his hat-trick, to come off so early in the game. But wee Jimmy's coming on, of course, because he's trying to get that legend maker goal, 16th season in a row. I remembered how long it was on this one. But yeah, it was a keen particular focus on Bernardo, and he was very motivated to be involved in play. He was very active, pretty decent without being amazing. He did progress the ball a bit better than we normally see from him in terms of travelling from deep into a more advanced area, but nothing ultimately was that decisive or that clinical. But you could tell he was really, And I think I've seen this quite a lot from Bernardo with him and Engels kind of jostling for position. But after Engels has had a period in the team, Bernardo was just desperate to get on the ball and be seen and be noticed and be felt in the team. And we got that from him. And that kind of maybe repelled Dundee United a little bit as well, because Bernardo knows when to bring a guy down. He knows when to give away a free kick. And a great player, balance-wise, to bring into the game at this point here. And again, maybe just give Hatate a bit more license to try and get his name on the match. But he doesn't get long, because once we get to the 74th minute, he comes off. I was quite surprised by this, because Hatate has been a 90-minute guy quite regularly, but he comes off for McKeown, and then we also get Taylor coming off for Jeffrey Schlupp. Now, I'm surprised by this one, but I suppose Taylor's not been playing that much recently, so he's maybe not 90-minute capable as much as he normally would be for whatever reason, perhaps, or maybe Rodgers is still showing no clear loyalty between the two of them, or maybe it's a little taste of kind of, you know, what the future is in store if Taylor was to stay on a little bit, you know. So Schlupp comes on, and he was kind of fine, wasn't he? He did this inverted job, did a little bit better than we normally see, but I don't think there was much being asked of him. Trapanowski did try and break into this space again that we highlighted in the preview, that we thought they would try and getting it behind either with AJ if he went high on this corner, but particularly with the inverted fullback, having somebody down here that's going to take scales 1v1 and make it a bit difficult. And this Trapanowski towards the end had a chance and was a bit of a handful, like we thought he might have been. Forrest felt desperate to shoot in this one, and really between all the players that we had on, McKeown was on the ball, made one or two passes or whatever, but yeah, it just really, at 5-0, it just was, sadly didn't change from there. If we take a look at the player ratings for the match, the highest rated Celtic player on the day was Alistair Johnson with a perfect score of 100, and he's basically nailed it on. He got his assist in the game as well, which was great to see. He's got a clean sheet bonus, of course. 4 effective clearances, a tackle 1, which is nice. Duels and such, quite minimal. See, I don't think Dundee were that pressy, you know, where we were actually involved in a lot of duels across the pitch or anything like that. 71 accurate passes, 24 of them in the final third, 12 missed passes, and 18 possession lost for fullback is quite acceptable ranges. 1 big chance created, 2 attempted assists, 5 balls into the box. For how dominant we were in this game, maybe Alistair Johnson would have wanted a wee bit more than that, but ultimately, pretty flawless performance, pretty solid from him. Closely behind him in second place is Carter Vickers on a 94.5, let's just call it 95 out of 100. He gave away 2 fouls, but he got himself a wee triple-double. So what does that mean? He got 3 tackles in the game, which is huge, 8 effective clearances, which is expected, 4 positive duels won, which is fantastic considering the volume we've got here, 2 interceptions, 109 accurate passes, 8 passes were missed, 10 possessions were lost. So that's pretty impeccable, isn't it? And 2 balls into the box for the big man as well. 94.5 out of 100. Cannot really be asking for much more. Right behind him was Nicolas Kuhn, who only clocked 64 minutes in the game. He got 3 shots on target, one contest, which is like a dribble, you know, where he really takes a guy on, goes forward. 8 balls into the box as well, which is phenomenal. The duels won and lost have kind of equalled out at 0, you know, net 0, but 4-1, 4 lost, an interception. And I wonder if he got a tackle. Yeah, 2 tackles won. You all remember that tackle he made in the game where he won the ball back and then initiated a counter off it. Nicolas Kuhn, even like when we first signed him, whenever we were looking at the match ratings, it was very clear that he's a very like tenacious winger, and that's something that he's always shown, and it's great to see that kind of showing up again statistically for him, because he was a real breath of fresh air in this game. It was back to being vintage Kuhn. Only 7 passes missed, which again, considering the type of passes and play he's involved in, pretty good going. Right behind him, who was next? Yeah, I think it is Maeda on the outfield, but it would be remiss of me not to show Sinisalo here. He got his clean sheet, and like I said in the preview, we wanted a high value clean sheet for this guy, but he's had to work for it. He's made 4 saves from inside the box, 2 punches, 1 diving save. Pretty good going from big Sinisalo here. 49 accurate passes, 6 missed passes, which, you know, for a goalkeeper, that can be like hitting it long and it goes out for a throw in. They're not always calamities. 4 long passes into the opposition as well. Only 6 possession lost, and that would have been the 6 missed passes. So great performance for him, and I'm glad he got the clean sheet. But Dazien Maeda didn't actually have too much to write home about here in terms of, you know, really writing the headlines. Yeah, he's got 2 assists to his name, which I'm sure he's really happy about, but goals has been his main currency recently. He had 2 BCMs. Now, this is big chances missed, or statistical sitters is what we call them here on the channel. And Dazien and Kyogo used to both love big chances missed, and he comes away with 2 in this match. I think 2 is maybe on the harsh side. I would definitely give him 1, but he had 2 big chances created, which were his 2 assists, of course. A couple of balls into the box, only 1 shot on target. 8 missed passes, 14 possession loss. I suppose when you consider he was playing wide, it's not that bad. The duels won and lost again, nets out at 0, 1 interception. Not a vintage Dazien performance statistically, it looks like here, only one tackle and 1 effective clearance. But his 2 assists came to make it 2-0 and 3-0 if I remember correctly. So very decisive in the match, a pivotal player, and he's keeping up a great run of form all the same, even though he's not got himself on the score sheet. Very similarly to the player just behind him, Adam Idah, he's come on and not really had too much to write home about outside of the goals, statistically speaking. He had an error led to shot. I've not got that in my notes, so I wonder where that came from. His big chance missed, we spoke about that header, of course. 3 attempted assists for the big man, but he's not shy at trying to play on other people. And Dazien almost set up Kuhn for one as well, if I can bring it back to that, where that little back heel, if he pulled that off, it would have been a hat-trick of assists. It would have been a hat-trick for Nicolas Kuhn as well. But it's nice to see the link-up play we also got here in the front line. 2 shots on target for Idah. 75 out of 100 from him from the bench. Right behind him was Callum McGregor with his 1 assist, 2 balls into the box. Not really that final third present, was he? Only 52 accurate passes, which isn't that much for McGregor. The duels won and lost is -1, in fact, only 1 interception. And again, it just further highlights, I don't think this was really that much of a physical contest for Celtic. It was very much a ball match, you know, getting possession and moving the ball around, creating chances. If they were getting it, it was like, if they won a throw in, it was almost like American football where they're winning yards up the pitch and then they swing a long throw in and try and buy corners, that sort of stuff. But McGregor, 2-1 tackles as well. Quite complete performance, quite a quietly complete performance is probably the way I would put it here, without being too fine. And as I'm saying that, like, he did have a great chance early on in the first half where he was in the box himself, but throughout the match it wasn't a regular thing. Right behind him we've got Liam Scales on a 73, great performance from him as well with a clean sheet bonus. 6 effective clearances. Duels won and lost is decent, +2, 8-1, 6 lost, 1 interception, 103 passes, 7 lost. Very similar scores to Vickers with only 1 ball into the box, but 73, really good score from Liam Scales. And then Greg Taylor, who didn't complete the 90 minutes but finished on a 58. Only really 1 chance created off of his kind of wild card element we've got here. Duels, he's won 4 and lost 2. Pass count at 44 is okay, but no interceptions, no tackles, a few effective clearances. Just a bit of a forgettable performance. I don't think Taylor really done much. Error led to shot has been caught on this one as well for Taylor, so a wee mistake in this one. And then really outside of that, like, everyone did quite okay. Everyone else was kind of just bang average. Engels gets a lot of points on this one statistically for all of the corners that he played in today. But like I say, I felt like in this game he went a bit missing. And sadly, Hatate doesn't actually come out of this game statistically that impressive. I think maybe the lost possession is a big part of this here, as well as apparently not being overly successful in the duels he's won and whatnot. So that's why I say with statistics is there's only so far you can take them with some things, and that's why, like, Hatate was brilliant today and the statistics don't show that. And I think everyone else that we've seen that played well has earned it, don't get me wrong, but I'm not having Alistair Johnson played twice as good as Hatate today, for example. But I think the ratings are always interesting to see. If we look at Dundee United at a quick glance, of course they've been pretty slaughtered 5-0, but you know, they've won some duels and stuff like that, and they've not been too bad. It's not all red over there, but a good performance from the Hoops. 5 subs as well used in this game. All the subs were pretty handy considering they had limited minutes, and it feels like now in this sharp end of the season that back 4 there with Sinisalo, let's wait till Schmeichel comes back as well, is pretty nailed on, pretty set. Will we see Schlupp start another game this season? I'm not too sure. Will Trusty? And looking at this, as we come into the final part of the season here, it feels like maybe that defence, which started the year, and really in a lot of ways, this game was a wee bit Groundhog Day-ish in the way of, like, just the familiar names and faces, how well they all linked up together. There wasn't any unexpected nonsense. That team has played together. They've had reps. They really know the play. They know the tactics. They know the opposition. They know the task at hand. And the defence just felt as strong domestically as it's felt all year. So good to see Sinisalo with a good performance there. We'll see what happens when Schmeichel comes back. The midfield does seem pretty set there. But with Engels having another one of those kind of absent performances, and Bernardo being like very much full of beans, and McKeown, again, stats, goals and assists and all that stuff per minute. Very impressive debut season in the Hoops for him. There may be a wee bit of a shake-up in midfield for the next match. Maybe not the next match, but in the victory lap that we're now going on is what I'm thinking about here. But with Jota now out injured, and you know, like if it is like a twisted knee or if it is like a pulled ligament or something like that, that's 2 to 3 weeks in most cases, I would imagine. So very unlikely we see him before the cup final, maybe is a way to think of it as. So does that get Idah back to starting the team again? Does that open up something for Forest potentially? That is going to be the main talking points, and I think one of the main things we're going to be thinking about and discussing here on the channel the next week as we preview the derby. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. On screen now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. We've been doing a series on the channel where every Wednesday at 5-6 o'clock I scout one of the leagues across European and world football, looking for players that we could realistically sign, profile, transfer value, that sort of thing, that would make us a lot better. We were like about 5 or 6 episodes into it, so if you haven't caught any of that yet, I hope you enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hail, hail, and Mon the Hoops.